As we transition to another man, a young man, the son of a coach, your son, TRES, you've already shared the poignant story about how he shared the moment of his commitment to play for you. So that it speaks for itself how special that bond is. But just if you were not his father and walked into a gym and just evaluated Coach Tinkle, the basketball player, without knowing much else about him, what kind of things would jump out at you and have jumped out, obviously, at a lot of other people to make him a top 50 recruit?
You know, I would say he's a competitor. That would be the first thing that you notice when you walk in a gym, that, you know, whether the score, they're up 20 or down 20, you couldn't tell by the look in his eye because he's getting after it. Crafty player, lefty, which, you know, can cause problems because, you know, they're a little unorthodox. A great finisher at the rim, a solid shooter in space from depth, and really a guy that makes good decisions on the defensive end. You know, anticipates well, sees the floor, plays the passing lanes, and rebounds it. So a high IQ guy, skilled with size, but more than anything is really that level of competitiveness.
Okay, and that's, again, that's just the basketball part of it. If you were a neutral observer watching a kid play,
You bet.
want to get to some of the deeper personal things and the character things that you've instilled and that you know him well. It speaks to me, Coach, that, you know, as much as I know the local community here in Corvallis, the programs here were excited about the possibility of him maybe wanting to play his senior year here. Mm-hmm. The fact that he chooses to stay and the reasons for it, to play in his senior year at Hellgate, again, speaks to a team guy and a guy that wants to finish his high school experience in the right way and win another state title. So tell us how that decision, how he arrived at that and what that means to you.
Well, we've been criticized probably as often as we've been complimented. You know, you're showing true love by letting him do that. But people are like, how can you leave your son behind and all that sort of thing? Well, we advised him, just like we did through the recruiting process as he looked at other schools. And he said, we started something that we need to finish. And he said, it's beyond basketball, Dad. He said, I've been going to school with a lot of these kids since kindergarten. He said, trying to win a state title is huge, but he said, I'm going to be every bit as proud that day in June that we walk across the stage together and get our diplomas. And that's what really hit me and said, okay, this kid gets it. So it was tough, and he came to Corvallis in August, really enjoyed it, made some buddies, you know, Joe Casey and some of those guys. And it wasn't like he thought, this isn't the right level, or this is too high a level, or I could come here. And it was, you know, I'm just much more comfortable with that group of guys and what we really set out to do the minute we lost that state title last year. And so how do you argue that? You know, and he's with great people who actually, a couple that grew up in Junction City, Eric and Deb Hayes. So he's living with them, playing for their son. And we've got a lot of people there looking out for him. Yeah. So it's going to be tough on the family. My wife's going to make a lot of trips to Spokane to see Ellie, you know, to Missoula to see Trace. She's already been to Turkey to see Joss. But we'll get through it, and we'll be better for it down the road.
That competitiveness you speak of, from the time he's little and first and has a basketball in hand, could you always kind of feel that? Did you have a sense as he was growing up, Coach, that, hey, my son can be pretty good? I mean, did you kind of feel that all along?
Certainly. In any sport or any activity that he chose to participate, it was like a switch went off when it was practice or game time. And he got into a focus. And there were times he lost it a little bit, a time or two, which was part of his growth and maturity the last year and a half. I know I saw a comment on him, what he learned from this summer. There was a time that the whole gym was surrounded by coaches, high-level team they were playing against. They got very physical, cheap shot, smack talk, and it took him out of his game. He realized, and he admitted it, I got to realize I've got to keep my focus. And so, you know, soccer when he was young, track and field, even the track events that the 6th grade had, you know, that wasn't against another school, but just competitive within. He had to try to go for the gold, so to speak. Homework. you know, early on he had struggled with reading. So my wife, we read to him all the time. He improved. Mathematics, now he's a whiz. He didn't want to be the weak link in the family as he watched his older sisters be successful, sports, academics. And so he had that burning desire to be the best, for whatever that means. And almost to where at times we had to tell him that there was an element of enjoyment in these things and that he couldn't miss that. The thing is, his release to that was being a knucklehead, jumping off of garages into a lake, skateboarding off of jumps. I mean, those were the things. He snowboarded and skied when he was younger. And those were kind of his fun outlets. But when it was something competitive, he was going to grind it out.